So in this video, I want to do or discuss the waters and go into a deeper understanding of the times we're living in, the events that are taking place, but I'm going to kind of pinpoint one area of understanding and show you or give you an understanding as it relates to the waters of what God expects and what is godly and what is ungodly, and show you why God removed Trump from office, and why we're seeing the events take place at the border. All the events that we're seeing taking place at the border with the border crisis and the flood of immigration, the surge. Remember the waters and the language and the tongues. And I refer you back to Revelation chapter 17, verse 15, that the waters that were shown to John about the Bible are not literal waters. They're the peoples, nations, multitudes, and tongues. Very important to understand that. So, we know God is a loving, giving God, and we know He likes to give His waters, the Word, freely. And Jesus spoke about this many times. He taught this many times. And He even told His apostles, that He gave to them freely and that they were to do the same. Give freely. If somebody's compelled to give you something, that's one thing, to help your cause or whatever. That's another thing, and maybe that's something that many people have confused about me in my channel. That I'm not against churches getting money, or church leaders or pastors or ministers or men of God. I'm not against that. I mean, they need that to do their work, and but the problem is when they get up there and put on this performance art show and whatnot, all that nonsense, this nonsense that they do, and they give in these prophetic words that in visions and dreams that they know are not from God, and they're just doing it to promote their wealth. They're what's called prosperity preachers. I'm completely against that. Or soothsayers. Understand that. And it's not bad to teach a good message. It's not bad at all to teach a good, loving message in any way. But you also have to teach a stern message as well. At times, you have to understand what the good father is. The good father is a loving father, but he's also a stern father too. If you spare the rod, you spoil the child. That's just a fact. And, sometimes discipline, he has to discipline us and show us the truth about the waters, and how to live in accordance and in a godly manner. And when people sometimes believe things are going bad, they're not actually going bad. They're going in a good direction, but it just takes a little deeper understanding to see that. So what I'm going to discuss is about the border and the flood. Again, the waters are the peoples, nations, multitudes, and tongues. So what Trump wanted to do, and what he had encouraged and had people believing, is that, we needed a wall. And you can see that wall as a dam that would hold back the waters. Realize that, the peoples. See that as a dam. So having a dam is not a bad thing necessarily. But just like a dam, you have to release those waters. You have to at least allow a certain degree of those waters to be released into the land. Otherwise, that dam, the waters will build up at that dam. Just like you're seeing the waters, the peoples build up at the border. They have been building up because of that wall, because the and it's come to a point where it's ready to breach the levee. It's crested, people. Understand that, because God's not into building dams. That's not what he does. God builds bridges. He's not a builder of dams to hold back the waters and the peoples. Remember, like in the times of Noah, that he flooded the earth. The peoples, the waters are the nations, the peoples, the nations, the multitudes and tongues. So just like in the time of Noah, he had to flood the earth because there was a drought. And realize that when you don't release so much water into a land, you have a drought that creates fire. Everything becomes dry and there's fires. You see the fires that are occurring, people? The cities that burn? You see the drought. Can you see the climate and everything that I've taught about the waters with the climate, the fires, how it relates to the waters that have been held back and created this drought? So if you have a dam, a wall, and you hold back the waters from the land, you have a drought, and this is what you're seeing. That creates a heated climate with the crops being so dry that they catch on fire and everything begins to burn. And you're seeing that in these times. So what if a farmer, and this is very, very common knowledge among farmers, just like God is the harvester of harvest, he knows, he understands what you have to do. And remember that it was Adam and Eve's job to work the land, to form the land with their hands, the sweat of their brow. And so when you get dry land and you have a drought on land for so long, the water table drops so low that a farmer, a harvester, in order to get a good crop, the only way he can expect that land to bring a good crop in its next season is to flood that land. Understand that. He has to flood the land. He has to open the floodgates and flood the land and pour out his spirit onto the land. Pour out his waters. And initially, and only initially, this is a bad thing, most people would believe, because they see this flood coming in. They see a flood coming at them, and they think they need to run to the hills, and they have to escape the waters. But understand, when that flood begins to rescind, and the waters begin to calm down, and the waters begin to be still again and come to a level that operates in sync with everything else, with God's plan, the waters become still and they become nourishing. They are the nourishing waters to the seeds that have been planted. Understand that. And they give a great harvest in its next season. That's the only way you can get a good harvest from dry land. You have to flood it. That's the only way to make it happen. The rains just simply can't make it alone. The little driblets and droplets of rain can't do it. The here and there and the sparseness of showers, you have to flood it. Got to flood the land. So people would look at the border and say, oh my God, here comes the flood. The floodgates are being opened. Let me tell you something, people. This nation was built by a flood of nations, of many nations. This is what made this nation great. What built it into the nation that it is. The power that it is. What gave it its initial great harvest of people. this nation became the greatest nation on earth in the shortest amount of time because the flood of immigration that came initially. It was the flood waters, the flood of the people, that brought this nation to its magnificence. But there's been a drought. There's been this inclusiveness, this idea of inclusiveness is very ungodly because, again, God doesn't build dams. He doesn't build walls. He builds bridges. God never built a wall. He built bridges. You know? And he doesn't need a dam. Understand this. And I want to give this as an example because when I hear people, and not trying to be vulgar, but I hear people say this and I correct them. I hear people say, use this vulgar term. They blaspheme God's name. They say GD, the term GD, damn. Well, when I hear people say that, I say, well, God don't need a dam because he can walk on the waters. Remember that, what Jesus was trying to teach Peter and the apostles, how to calm the waters. You have to learn to calm the waters. And you do that through your language, people, and through your behavior. Still waters. He wants still waters. He brings you, remember what Psalms 123 teaches. He leads you beside the still waters. And you need to understand the waters are your language. They're the peoples, nations, multitudes, and tongues. And your language, your words mean everything. So all these ones, Timothy Dixon and all these ones that want Trump back, they're inciting this. Understand what their language is representative of. It's divisiveness. It's a message of division, not unity. It's a message of division in that wall that has created this climate, this drought, this heated climate, and this drought that we're in. And understand this is why you have the flood that's coming. It has to be flooded. That's the only way you can have a good crop and a good harvest after a drought and the water table has reached low levels. You have to bring that water table back up with the flood. Flood the land so you can have a good harvest. So there are things happening around you on this earth that many people just can't see. Your eyes see without seeing. And I hope if you reflect, I want you to really reflect on this message that I've given you about the waters and the walls and the dams and the godly versus the ungodly behavior, why the waters are needed after a drought, why you have to flood the land after a drought. Reflect on this message, people, and see this division, this the blue waves and the red waves and all these messages of division and hate, violence. You see, the cities are burning, just like Revelation 17:17 said it would happen. This is what we're seeing. So the only way this goes in a better direction, if the language is changed, if your behaviors are changed, your attitude towards the waters. You have to change your attitude towards the waters, people. The peoples, nations, multitudes, and tongues. You have to accept the waters. And you have to teach and help the waters to be still. You have to have and create calming waters, because just like in a lake, you can take, all it takes is one drop, one tiny drop in a pool of water to create a ripple. Understand that. It just takes one drop to create a ripple and a rippling effect in the water. So this is why it's important to be still. Don't create ripples. You're looking for those calming, still waters, what God talks about in the Bible. It's very simple, people. If you just be still and know that He is the Lord and He is at work, there are powers that are in place right now that are at work. And the Democrats, Democrats, and all these other ones that think they're in control, they want to believe they're in control. They don't have a clue what's coming. None of these divisive powers have a clue of what's coming. They only, in their own little imagination, what they like to believe their own truth, they only believe they're in control. And they have no idea that the battle's already won. They're already defeated. The waters are going to come. The flood's going to happen. And nothing's going to stop it. But again, it has to happen. These things have to happen, people. Stay in your word. Be in the word. Walk in the spirit, not of the flesh. You know? Everything that you need to have is in the Holy Bible. It's right there. All you have to do is pick it up, open it up, and read it. And learn to be still and know that He is the Lord. And He's already won the battle. Hope y'all got something good out of this message, people. Reflect on it a little bit. Go to your word, go to the scripture and reflect on this message. And hopefully you can understand the deeper meaning of it. God bless.